When we hear the title Reichsführer SS, we think immediately of Heinrich Himmler, who held the post for 16 years and 113 days between his appointment in 1929 and April 1945. But Himmler was not the only man to have been Reichsführer SS. In fact, 5 men would hold the position from its creation in April 1925 until its dissolution in May 1945. And this video focuses on the last incumbent who held the most powerful position in the SS for only 9 days. If you've been following my series entitled The Death of Himmler, you will know that Heinrich Himmler lost power on the 28th of April 1945 as a result of his secret behind-the-scenes machinations to end the war with the Western Allies, with himself as the new German head of state. Hitler was down in his Berlin bunker in the city surrounded by the Soviets, Red Army forces fighting their way steadily towards him. Furious that Himmler had seemingly betrayed him, Hitler ordered Himmler arrested. At the time, Himmler was in northern Germany, having established a new headquarters close to Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz' soon-to-be new Reich government. Dönitz already acting as commander of all German forces in northern Germany since the Reich had been split in two by the US and Soviet forces meeting at the Elbe River. Himmler had about 125 followers with him at this time, his personal staff, his escort unit from the Order Police, and SS bodyguards, valets, drivers, etc. No one came to arrest him, and Dönitz continued to hold situation meetings with him in his office for the next few days. On the day after Himmler's treachery became known to Hitler, 29th of April 1945, the final scene in the bunker had begun. Hitler was making preparations to end his life, but also ensure the continuity of government following his demise. To this end, Hitler dictated his last will and testament, copies to be sent out of besieged Berlin to the northern and southern military commanders. In the second part of Hitler's political testament, he notes, quote, "Before my death I expel the former Reichsführer SS and Minister of the Interior, Heinrich Himmler, from the party and from all offices of state. In his stead, I appoint Gauleiter Karl Hanke as Reichsführer SS and Chief of the German Police, and Gauleiter Paul Giesler as Reich Minister of the Interior." End quote, dated 29th of April 1945. The choice of Karl Hanke to take over what remained of the SS was interesting. When Hitler dictated his last testament, Hanke was conducting the defense of the city of Breslau, like Berlin surrounded by Soviet forces. Breslau, in Lower Silesia, now in Poland, had been encircled since the 13th of February 1945. Already declared a Festung or fortress city by Hitler, holding it tied down tens of thousands of Red Army troops that could have been used more productively elsewhere. Hitler himself had named Karl Hanke the city's battle commandant. Huge numbers of Breslau's civilian population had been forcibly evacuated, and Breslau turned into a fortress. The garrison was a strange mixture of SS, including French and Dutch volunteers, Volkssturm home guards, Hitler Youths, and various army units, amounting to about 50,000 men. The city would be besieged by over 87,000 Soviet troops for a period of 3 months, and Hanke's iron-hearted leadership had deeply impressed Hitler. Hanke, who had been too young to have fought in World War I, had joined the NSDAP in 1928 and worked his way up the system to become personal adjutant to Dr. Joseph Goebbels at the Propaganda Ministry. In 1934, Himmler secured Hanke a commission as an honorary SS officer, Hanke serving as a special duties officer to the Reichsführer, dividing his loyalties between Goebbels and Himmler, the two leaders actively disliking one another. The wheels came off Hanke's career at the Propaganda Ministry when his affair with Goebbels' wife Magda came to the attention of his boss. The affair was Magda's revenge for Goebbels' long-standing affair with actress Lida Barova. In 1939, Hanke volunteered for the army as a panzer officer serving in the invasion of Poland. He then served under General Erwin Rommel during the Battle of France. Rommel had a good relationship with Dr. Goebbels, and after Lieutenant Hanke distinguished himself in battle by single-handedly turning back a French tank column, Rommel recommended him for the Knight's Cross. However, when Rommel was made aware of Hanke's private criticisms of him as a general, he instructed that the Knight's Cross application be withdrawn, an act that angered the men in Hanke's unit. In 1941, Hitler appointed Hanke Gauleiter of Lower Silesia, and Himmler also promoted him to the rank of SS Gruppenführer, or general, in the Allgemeine SS. To say that his rule of Lower Silesia was harsh would be an understatement, as Hanke gained the sobriquet the Hangman of Breslau, due to his ordering the executions of over 1,000 people during his time in office. Though Hanke and the military commanders under him diligently and brilliantly defended Breslau for months, the cost was high, and 30,000 soldiers and civilians would be killed or injured, and the city reduced to ruins, though the Germans inflicted over 60,000 casualties on the Soviets as well. Hitler was so pleased by Hanke's efforts that on the 21st of April 1945 he awarded him the highest Nazi Party honor possible, the German Order, normally given posthumously. But Hanke had no intention of going down with his sinking ship. Hitler died on the 30th of April, and Berlin fell on the 2nd of May 1945. Breslau held out for several more days. The new Reichsführer SS did not know of his new appointment until the 5th of May, due to the bad communications remaining in the Reich. On this day, the man who had exhorted Breslau to hold fast and fight to the bitter end ran away shortly before the city's surrender. Unbeknown except to his closest aides, Hanke had had a small spotter plane, a Fieseler Fi-156 Storch, hidden on the temporary airfield the Gauleiter had ordered constructed in the city centre. On the afternoon of the 5th of May, Hanke boarded the plane and was flown out of the burning city over Soviet lines to Prague, which was still under German control, leaving behind the remaining soldiers and civilians to the tender mercies of the Red Army. Gone was his fancy Gauleiter's uniform, and he didn't wear his SS General's uniform either. Instead, Hanke turned up at the headquarters of the 18th SS Volunteer Panzergrenadier Division Horst Wessel in a private's uniform. The unit attempted to fight its way out of Czechoslovakia to Germany, but on the 6th of May surrendered at Neudorf. Hanke was taken prisoner by the Czechs, but for now his disguise worked. He wasn't identified, and he was thrown into a rudimentary prison camp alongside other SS other ranks. However, many of his colleagues knew his identity, and Hanke knew that before long, perhaps one would trade this information for better treatment, or the Czechs might discover him themselves. Escape was his only option. Different versions exist regarding Hanke's demise. The most likely is that in early June 1945, the Czechs decided to move Hanke's group, numbering 65 men, to someplace else. Moving on foot, the marching column was passed by a train, and several POWs, including Hanke, made a break for it, clambering on to the fast-accelerating train. But guards opened fire, and Hanke and 2 other SS men fell wounded from the train. Czech guards then rushed over and finished them off with blows from their rifle butts. They never knew that they had, in fact, the 41-year-old Hangman of Breslau in their custody. So died the last Reichsführer SS, less than a week after Heinrich Himmler had also died, this time in British captivity. Hanke had exercised no control over the SS as Reichsführer. Indeed, Himmler's staff had remained loyal to their boss until the end, following him into captivity in northern Germany. Hanke had been Reichsführer for just 9 tumultuous days during the last spasms of the Third Reich, the shortest time in office of any Reichsführer in the post's 20-year existence. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.